All right, here we go. Wednesday, September 10th. Time for another Water Cooler Wednesday. I've got some good information, as always, for you to cover today for the next 30 or 40 minutes or so. And I'm joined, as always, by Dwayne Gibbs. Dwayne, how are you?
Good morning. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Let me turn my phone off. That would be good. We'll do not disturb there, just in case. Let's see. A couple of things going on. I was doing a deal review 2 days ago with a client. And he's got probably 15, 16 notes now. And
Hmm.
he did a non-performing note for the first time earlier this year, turned out really well. And now he decided to do some lending, private lending.
Mm.
And all of that, everybody, is a part of the note business. The note business is the real estate financial side of the business. So if you're borrowing money, you're in the note business. If you're lending money, you're in the note business. If you're buying loans that have already existed, you're in the note business. So it's all really the same thing. And so I teach people how to do loans as well and do them the right way. That's the problem. A lot of real estate investors don't create loans the right way when they sell or finance, and then they're shocked that they have to sell their note at such a big discount. It's like, well, because you didn't create a good note. So
Hmm.
there is a bit of an art to it. They're two different things. Lending, there's different aspects in lending than there is in buying an existing note. There's benefits and drawbacks on each side, which I can lay out very clearly for you. But this is an investor who's been with me for about 3 years, and he's gotten to the point now. He's a full-time tech guy, but he's gotten to the point now where he's probably writing more about notes on his social media, and I've had him on a couple of panels. I recommended him for at the national events. You saw him, Dwayne, out
Yeah.
in Texas,
Phoenix.
or in no, in
Oh, in Nashville.
Tennessee. Yeah, in Tennessee.
Yeah.
And just a great guy, and really has learned the business well. And now he's starting, as I always tell people, let's just start with one deal. That's what I did with him. Let's start with one deal. We get to another one. Your experience level starts to grow. And now he's branching out within the note industry. I'll do a non-performer, give that a shot. I want to learn that side of it. Now I want to do a little bit of the private lending. So he did two private loans for the same real estate investor in Texas. Now he happens to live in Tennessee, deals are in Texas, who cares? Fine. So he set everything up, did everything the right way, and the loans are performing very well. The borrower is making all the payments, and the borrower is renting the properties out. So these were not technically what we would call short-term, high interest rate or hard money loans. They weren't really bridge loans that went for 2 to 3 years. These were more a longer term solution loan. He wrote these for 20 years.
Mm.
So again, there's different categories of loans, everybody, different risk exposures and everything else. And that's why there's a little bit more to it than I'm just a private lender. So he did these 20-year loans, and she's paying pretty well. His investment to value ratios, which in that case would be called loan to value ratios, are in a good place. They're lower risk. He's making a good percentage on a return basis, and the borrower has enough money coming in from the rent to pay for the debt service. The debt service is her obligation to pay the lender or my client. Okay, so that's where we are on this, and everything's going well. I think he's been receiving payments on both of the notes for less than 6 months, and she reaches out to him and says, "Hey, I'd like to borrow some more money out of the equity in the property." Okay, how much? And she gave him a number. She wants to borrow like another 20,000 bucks. Now, number one, that would change his risk, right? If he does another loan on there, whether he modifies the existing loans or creates a second position loan on there, he's increasing his risk because he's got more dollars in that deal as it relates to the property value itself. Okay.
Correct.
The other thing was concerning. I said, well, what about her cash flow? Because how many landlords, Dwayne, do you know that just, or potential landlords, that go, yeah, but you could rent that for $1,500 a month and get a loan for only 500, and you're making $1,000 a month, man. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, you're no, you're not. Are
That's
you?
wrong math.
No,
That's
you're
wrong
not making
math.
$1,000 a month. There's
Wrong math.
expenses, man. there's upkeep, there's this, there's that, and because you hear that all the time, right? People do the simple math, 1,500 minus five, I'm making 1,000. It's like,
Forget all
no.
the expenses and the taxes.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So he's like, I said, well, ask her, well, what's the money for? Number one. And number two, what do her finances look like on these deals? If she takes on more debt, does she have enough in these to pay? So those were obviously the right questions to ask. So he went back and got the information from his borrower. Well, she's clearing, I think, $200 a month on one of them and 100 on the other after expenses and everything comes out. That's it.
Debt to income ratio is 74%.
And that's not including a reserve, everybody. A reserve is money that you put away every month. In theory, it's supposed to be in real practice, but often it's not. 90% of the time, it's probably not. But you put money away for future expenses of the unknown. Something comes up. You gotta fix a major repaired item and anything like that. So she was right on the really the razor's edge of what she could afford without having to dip into her own pocket. And now she wants to take on this additional debt. Well, what was the debt for? Well, a heat
Hmm.
pump. No,
Hmm.
a furnace. Sorry, furnace.
That money should have already been
Oh
taken out.
wait, no, I said these were in Texas. These were up in cold area, maybe Michigan then.
Mich Michigan.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And I said, because I know we had a conversation about, well, wait a minute, winter's, it'll be knocking on the door here pretty soon. Can't rent a house without, a water heater. I said, or without a
Heat pump.
furnace. And I said, if this is Section 8, they're going to flag her. She won't be able to rent under Section 8 with those problems. And so she's got an immediate need for this money to be able to rent the property. So he's kind of in a little potentially a spot there. So, but you can't let somebody else's problem become your problem. She's
That's
going
right.
to what she thinks is the easiest solution, which is just borrow more money from you versus having to go to Home Depot and put it on a high interest rate credit card. 24%, by the way. We went on Home Depot and looked. 24%. Now, she could get 0% interest for 6 months or 12 months, depending upon her credit. And I said, that's what she needs to do is get a Home Depot card
That's
and
right.
hopefully
That's
she's
not
got
his
good enough
problem.
credit to have 0% interest for 6 or 12 months and take care of it that way, not borrow more money from you. I said, because the problem is now she loses this tenant or something else happens, she's got to dip into her pocket, and you're just going to run into some issues there. And it's very, very hard to justify doing that, so I don't have an end of the story to you. I don't think he's going to do it. We relooked at the numbers, and I came to the conclusion, look, I just wouldn't do it. Let her figure out an alternative to fix her problem. And by the way, the items that she needed were not 20 grand. It was a couple
Right.
thousand bucks.
Probably
You
about
had some
2,500 bucks.
yeah, plus and then you add in a little bit of labor. So she's taking out a little bit more money than she needs. And he goes, yeah, she wanted to put money also on a third property, a little down payment money. And I'm like, yeah, this is not going to end well at some point in time, And I said, so I recommended against it. So I'm sure that he's not going to move forward on it, but it just got me thinking, there's people who look at the real estate industry and rental property can make a lot of sense. I totally get that as an alternative to maybe flipping properties because a lot of people don't want to rehab properties and go through that and everything else. So they look at rental property. I think it starts with because they understand the concept of rental property. Everybody does. Everybody's been a landlord or everybody has been a tenant at some point in time in their life. So they understand that relationship and there's a natural progression towards that versus learning some other aspects of the note industry or sorry, the real estate industry technically notes, as an alternative to that. So I thought we'd just take a little exploration of what that can look like for you. And this is not the know all end all. It's meant to be a short term thing and maybe a conversation starter, or at least something for you all to think about if you're in real estate with rental property and thinking expanding of that, or you're trying to determine if notes or real estate rental property is right for you, or where to get started, in real estate. Real estate was the bigger umbrella, right? So notes falls under that category. So does rental property. So does flipping property. Everything else falls underneath real estate. And then we have the brick and mortar side, which is when you're actually investing in owning property, and versus the paper side, which is notes and lending and that whole category. So if we can just, very easily break that down in our minds, that's what we are looking at here. So yes, rental properties, and I am not anti-rental property. I've had rental properties, everybody. It's a fine way to build income and wealth if you have the tolerance for it, if you have the skill set for it, and if you have the mentality to really understand what you're getting. Biggest things with the rental property that people are attracted to is monthly income and property appreciation. Great. And I can't argue with that. Like I said, I'm not anti-rental property. We're just laying out alternatives here. So if we put those to the side with the understanding of, okay, we've got monthly income, we've got property appreciation. Those are our two biggest attractions to investing in rental property. Let's break it down a little bit further. Since you own the property, you have ownership liabilities. Somebody gets hurt on the property, anything like that, while it's under renovation, after it's under renovation, if you have tenants in there, you have liability. So you have to address that liability, not only from an insurance perspective, but also from an estate planning perspective. Dwayne and I, in training people and talking with people who have rental property and want to become note investors, a lot of times we found out that they own not one, but several rental properties in their own name.
That's right.
Is that a problem? Yeah, it's a big problem, right? Because what happens if somebody gets hurt on that property, your insurance doesn't cover it or all of it? What are they going to do? They're coming after you, right? They're going to sue you. And because you have it in your own name, they're going after everything that you own. So people do what? They set up LLCs, series LLCs. They set up trusts that own LLCs. There's all kinds of ways to build what we call layers of protection to insulate us from the ownership liabilities. So yes, it's an issue. It's an issue that we can address, and there's a cost to it. Insurance costs and proper insulation through various entity holding techniques in which to do that. Why? Because you have direct risk. You own that asset. Therefore, you're liable for that asset. So that's one thing. Now, the other part of the ownership liability, of course, deals with the properties. So not only do you have the liability of someone getting hurt on the property, but also damage to the property. So once again, we have to go, what risk do I have? Well, I have the risk of hurricanes down here in Florida. You got risk of floods up there where Dwayne is. And a risk of hurricanes. You've got fires out west. Everybody's got their natural disasters. Okay, so we have to look at that and we have to say, okay, we need to assess that risk and we need to insure against that risk. So once again, it's an identifiable problem. There's just a cost to it. So that whole model of I'm renting it for $1,500 and my debt service is $500, again, no. There's other costs involved, and that's one of them. Now, with liabilities, of course, there's responsibilities. As an owner of the property and you're renting it to somebody, you've got the responsibility to make that property livable, right? I mean, this lady I was talking about in my introduction with the story of the furnace downstairs, that's her responsibility, and she's got to get that fixed. She cannot put somebody's I'm getting life in danger if this was in the middle of winter. That's certainly a reality. Right now, it's not such to that degree, but you can't have somebody in a property where they don't have proper water, they don't have proper electrical, they don't have proper heating, they don't have proper sewage. I mean, all All these things come under your responsibility, and you have a liability to fix those things, or once again, you are sued. So, yes, can we outsource that? Sure. Property management companies deal with this all the time. So you could pay a property manager to take on the lead for all of those. Ultimately, the buck stops with you. You're responsible for it. They'll report it to you. Hey, here's what's needs to be done, and you might give them a certain amount of leeway. Like, don't bother me with stuff that's under $1,000. Just fix it. You could certainly set up relationships like that. But at the end of the day, you have the ultimate responsibility and liability, but you could outsource somebody to manage that liability and ownership for you. But that once again cuts into monthly income.
Yeah, it's not only that, you have a responsibility to the tenant itself. They're paying their money.
Mhm.
You want it safe, sanitary housing for them, and it's a responsibility that you as an owner have to uphold.
Yeah. Yeah. Because again, you've got that liability and tenants have rights. And in some
Absolutely.
states, their rights almost are stronger than the owner's rights, it seems.
And especially if you're doing a first month, last month security deposit, everybody thinks that security deposit
Yeah.
is yours. It's not. It's the
Yeah.
tenants.
Yeah.
When they move out, if they gave proper notification that they're leaving, it's your responsibility to pay that money back.
Yeah, and you're starting to hit on this legal procedures. I mean, it starts from how you showed that property to the person before
Sure.
you even sign a lease.
Hmm.
There's legal procedures there. You have a lease. What type of lease is it? Is it written properly in that particular state? If you have a problem with that tenant and you're going to go through an eviction process, there's a legal procedure for all of these things. In some states, much longer than others. And you have to be familiar with those procedures. Look, all you would have to do, and there's a bunch of them now, but I'll just use the most famous one. Just watch Judge Judy. And I guarantee you, within that 30 minutes or that hour that you watch Judge Judy, you're going to see landlord tenant, landlord tenant. You're going to see a dog bite, and you're going to see somebody who's on my cell phone bill. I gave him my credit. I mean, that's you can break down that show. A lot of what you're going to see are landlord tenant. Why? Because it happens every single day. And a lot of times the tenants will win if the landlord doesn't file the proper paperwork, they don't follow the proper procedures. So if you're just moonlighting as
Mm.
a real estate owner renting a property and you're going to save expenses to not cut into your monthly cash flow and self-manage a property, down the road, that could be an expensive proposition for you.
I'd have thought the point, but you threw out Judge Judy on me, and now I'm gone. I lost it.
Threw you off track with JJ.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So it's important that you follow those because in some states, tenants can get triple damages. So it's not just, all right, I'll give them their money back. And no, they could still sue you and you owe them not only that money, but three times for damage. So you really need to know the legal procedures in those states to do that properly. Tenant issues, again, dealing with tenants and the proper way to do it, all these things start to combine. Once again, you've got a responsibility for that. There's legal procedures in dealing with tenants. There's a liability with having tenants in there. So all of these things start to pile up. And of course, the ongoing expenses. You've got the unknown, the uncertainty of property ownership, which is a storm comes through, damages the roof, a limb falls through. You have to get that fixed. Guess what? You got to pay for that. Where's your reserve account? Where's that extra money you've been keeping from the rent that you're putting away for a rainy day? Probably not there. And now you got to come out of pocket. You got to be ready for those ongoing expenses. And Dwayne, what a lot of people start to do is they buy these rental properties with an IRA.
yes,
And who's got to
I
pay those
do.
expenses?
Yep, absolutely. And you also have to watch out. There are some states that require debt collector license, like North Carolina. It's
Yeah.
expensive. It's
Yeah.
expensive to have those license and being able to collect your rents from any monies coming in as an owner. So make sure that you're in compliance.
Hmm. And again, with those expenses, I mean, everybody just think about your own house. Stuff happens, stuff breaks, and you've got to be able to pay for that. And I've seen people have in the past, they use an IRA to buy the property, and then they've got some other big expenses. Your IRA has to pay for that. You can't commingle funds.
That's right.
And now all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I don't have the money in my IRA to put a new roof on the house. Man, you've got a world of hurt coming. Now you've got other tax implications. You got all kinds of issues, and you would basically have to bring on a partner at that point in time. You
Yeah,
know,
it's funny that you bring that up because I talked to a guy the other day and he goes, "Well, I have a lot of money in my business account." I said, "Is it tied to your IRA?" No, it's my own personal. I said, you can't do that." And he goes, "Well, why can't I? I've done it before." I said, "Well, don't get caught because that's commingling funds." And he just wasn't up with it. He didn't understand. He thought
yeah,
that, it's my property, it's within business entity, I'm using my business monies to pay for it. I said, well, it's separate from your IRA. Your IRA has to pay for those
yeah.
expenses that are tied to that property.
And that's could be an expensive proposition down the road. Now, on the positive side, again, you got cash flow. That was the whole thing. You wanted monthly income. So you do have cash flow, and every property cash flows. Every rental property cash flows. But there's either a plus sign or a minus sign in front of that number. Okay. So it's
Hmm.
still cash flow, could be positive cash flow, could be negative cash flow. And that's what you have to look at. And you really have to familiarize yourself with the form, their spreadsheets, and everything else that break down from the rent. Here's expenses. Here's other things I need to put away to get down to your net operating income and all these various numbers that are so important to you. What's your money left after expenses, before debt service, and before taxes? All these sorts of things come into play, and you should be very, very familiar with those. And again, I always hear, yeah, but the other thing is we get depreciation on the property. You sure do. You sure do. And you can even do accelerated depreciation. Whoops helps you in the short term. And guess what happens when you sell that property? There's something called recapture of depreciation. Okay. So don't forget that little aspect of there. Everybody seems to
Mm.
remember depreciation, but they forget there's a recapture of depreciation on there as well. Okay, so there's some good things, there's some bad things, all things that you can identify. And if you have a proper spread in there, once again, you could have positive cash flow, you could have positive monthly income, positive property appreciation, and do very, very well. You just have to make sure these other items are in check, that you're aware of them and you understand the costs associated with those things. Because so once again, rental property has been proven to be a huge moneymaker over the years, but it's also a lot of people who get in it and get out of it and have a terrible experience with it. It goes the complete opposite direction. Those are the ones who are undereducated, uninformed, et cetera, et cetera. So you have to, again, try to master these concepts. If we switch from rental property owner over to note owner, we can wipe away a bunch of things. One of the things is property appreciation. Why? Because we don't own the property. Okay. So we're out on property appreciation. Is that a potential drawback? Well, sure. Property appreciation can be great over the years. Can properties also go down in value? Well, a lot of people learned that in the last crash as well. So yeah, it can go both ways. So we're removing ourselves from potential appreciation. We're also removing ourselves from potential loss of property value. Okay, because we're out of that picture. We don't own it. We are the bank. So that also means we don't have ownership liabilities. I have no liability of ownership on that property at all. The owner has to fix the house up. The owner has to repair anything. I don't have any of those liabilities. Somebody gets hurt on the property, I'm not liable. I'm the bank. Okay, they're still liable to pay me. Somebody getting hurt on the property is their issue to deal with, their own insurance to deal with, not me. Okay, I don't have ownership responsibilities. Don't call me about the overflowing toilet. I don't deal with the tenants. I don't have any of those issues because I'm not the landlord. They're the landlord. I'm just the bank. You're not going to call Bank of America and say, "Hey, I got a call from the tenant today. The toilet's leaking. Can you send somebody over there?" You don't do that. We're Bank of America in this case. We're the bank. So we don't have any of those issues. We don't have any of the ongoing expenses with the property, something happens to the property, that's on me. They got to fix their own property. I don't own the property. I'm just the lender. I'm just the bank. And of course, since we don't own the property, we can't depreciate the property. So what am I getting? I'm getting monthly cash flow, and it's always going to be positive cash flow because I don't have any expenses. I don't have all those other issues. All I'm getting there is that monthly income. And if they don't pay the monthly income, they're at potential for losing the property through a voluntary sale or a forced sale. They still owe the debt to me. So that's the dynamic when you're looking at investing. Is it cash flow that you're looking for? If it's cash flow that they're looking for, you may want to look at this model and say, do I want cash flow but have all these other items? Or do I want cash flow without all of those other items? Which one's best for you and your lifestyle? That's the way we look at it. If you're looking at property appreciation as a way to go, well, then you're probably going to go a different direction. But don't forget, properties don't always appreciate. We've seen, big collapses in property values. We've seen those things come down. What's going to happen with interest rates right now? What's going to happen on October 1st? Anybody know the significance of October 1st? It'll be coming out soon. I'm going to be doing some things about that as well. Are we going to see rates go down at all? Are we going to see a demand for more property? What's going to happen in your local area with the property value? So if you're looking for cash flow and that's your main thing, I think it's hard to make an argument why you wouldn't go into notes versus rental property. If you're looking at something with appreciation and you're okay with all the hassles and everything else, certainly rental properties can be a part of what you do. But I think what you will also find is you can do things like lease options with the note and combine the best of rental property, get some appreciation of property under a lease option, and then sell it with financing and step away from all of the responsibilities as well. So there's a little bit more to it than just that.
Yeah, when I talk to students from time to time, I tell them that, they ask what is really the biggest benefit of doing the note business versus doing real estate. And I say, listen, you're getting the best of both worlds in the note business. You can do every facet of real estate within the note business. You can wholesale a deal, you can flip a note, you can do all of that within the note business and still be the bank
Mhm.
and make out. And I think people that are new to the business don't understand the biggest difference in being the bank versus being the owner of the property. I think that they just can't wrap their head around, I don't have these expenses anymore. I don't have to worry about that. Nope, you're the bank. You're the bank. And I use the analogy about, well, I like making sure I get my mailbox money every single month. And I said, well, it's just going to go to your bank account. You're not going to receive a check per se. It's going to go
Yeah.
right into your bank account.
Yep. Yep. 100%. And look, I've had rental property over the years. I haven't had a large number of rental properties. I've had enough to go, yeah, I don't think so. Tenant's not paying. I had a tenant who painted the inside of the house all these different colors in every room and just not paying. And oh God, yeah, I was just like, yeah, you know what? No, no thanks. Some of you listening probably have had good experience with hey, when you get a good tenant, man, that can go a long way. You get a good
Oh
long-term
yeah,
tenant, that can go a heck of a long way, and everything's great.
no
But I
question.
can tell you, I hear a lot more stories that go the other way. So weigh these things out and just think through. So I wanted really because again, I'm not anti-rental property and just pro note. I'm really not. I just think you have to be educated enough to weigh those both out and go, what am I really looking for here? And then break it down as I did for you to kind of go, well, what's my best option here? And maybe it starts with rental property, and then you flip into notes like a lot of people do, or maybe it goes the other way. You go into notes and you say, you know what, I do want to take a couple of these properties maybe and keep them as rental for long term, and you have a mixed portfolio. Fantastic, absolutely nothing wrong with that either. Just understand the difference between the two different investments and make an educated decision versus just, I don't know, rental property sounds good. I heard my neighbor did well with that. There's more to it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I joke, but Dwayne laughs because we've
We've
worked
heard a
with a lot of
lot.
people over there, so we've heard
Heard a
these
lot
little
of
nuggets
different
I've
stories.
heard before. I'm not making stuff up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
He drives a nice car. He does real estate.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 All right, everybody. Hey, look, we've got these 4 free videos, and I'm thinking of charging again for these videos, as I have in the past. We've had them free for quite some time now, several months. So I might just start putting those back on a price there. So if you want to get them for free, do it now. Just go to learn.kevinshortel.com. That's learn.kevinshortel.com, and go right there. You'll see it plain as view, right, right on the website there on what to do. All you're going to do is enter your name. I think it asks for a phone number and email address, and that's it. You just fill out that information. You'll get immediate access. We're even going to throw in there. You get a couple emails where you get a chance to talk with us and just see, explore these topics and see what other questions that you have and see if the note business is the right thing for you. And of course, see what we can do for you. We've helped more people in this business together than anybody in the country, and we do it at a much higher level, and the results have been great. So if that's something that you're looking at, just go again to learn.kevinshortel.com and fill out the information. You'll have immediate access to a really, really good course that I should be charging for, but I'm not right now.
Also, something that's very important that I know everybody that I talk to does follow Kevin on YouTube. He does a tip of the day, which is very informative. It typically comes out, if not every day, every other day, and follow him. He's had a complete series of 5 years. If you're looking to understand more about the note business and want to be engaged every single day and listen to something that of a new topic of a situation that he's going through, something that you may be stuck on and have an aha moment, go to YouTube, look up Kevin Shortell and follow his tip of the day. Good stuff, Kevin.
Yep, sounds good. Okay, my friend, and thank you everybody for tuning in, and we'll have another one for you next Wednesday. But yes, go see us on social media and like and subscribe. I do appreciate that. And until then, we'll see you next time.
Next time.